Father has forgotten. There were 6 men killed in Brecker's saloon.
Only 6? You're sure there weren't more?
Positive. My gun was empty by then.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Jay Malachi and you're watching Theory of a Man.
Rollin', 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 though the streams are swollen, keep them doggies rollin'.
In this video, I'd like to talk about vestigial organs.
Nah, I don't like the idea. How about instead we talk about vestigial organs?
But first, I'd like to make a confession.
Then go talk to a priest.
I have practiced witchcraft, for I am able to read the minds of my viewers. Let me prove it.
This begs the question that reading people's minds has something to do with witchcraft. Of course, neither exists, but I digress.
Evolutionists.
Do not exist. I suppose this clown means scientists.
Right now, you're probably thinking that I'm going to show the functions of many vestigial organs and then claim that I don't understand biology because vestigial doesn't, and never has, meant functionless.
Please note that the usage of the word vestigial varies between the speaker. The definition of vestigial hasn't changed for over 100 years.
How correct was I? More correct than the belief, I suppose. This modern definition of vestigial is not as it always was. Let's look at what the older resources say.
Nobody cares. How about we look and see what Charles Darwin, for example, said in the year 1859 on the subject.
I say, Fabergem, it looks like the Americans have another bloody convoy.
Oh, wait a minute, that was C.W. McCall. We'll try again.
I say, Fabergem, an organ serving for 2 purposes may become rudimentary or utterly aborted for one, even the most important purpose, and remain perfectly efficient for the other. Ellipse. An organ may become rudimentary for its proper purpose and be used for a distinct object. Unquote.
Shorter Oxford English Dictionary 1993 defines vestigial as degenerate or atrophied, having become functionless in the course of evolution. The World Book Encyclopedia 2000 says vestigial organs are the useless remains of organs that were once useful in an evolutionary ancestor.
A dictionary? A dictionary.
The Facts on File Dictionary of Biology, Facts on File, New York, 1988, defines vestigial organs as:
Dictionaries do not define words, they describe usage of words. Charles Darwin, among others, explained what a vestigial feature is. Nobody gives a shit what a dictionary says the word means.
An organ that is functionless and generally reduced in size but bears some resemblance to the corresponding fully functioning organs found in related organisms.
That's right, it also says that atheists are pagans. Nobody gives a shit what a dictionary says. If you want to know what vestigial means, you talk to a scientist. You don't look it up in a dictionary or an encyclopedia. Talk to scientists who actually work in the field, who know what the fuck they're saying. If you need to go back 150 years, which for some reason this clown thinks 1993 and year 2000 is ancient, go see what Charles Darwin had to say on the subject. I already quoted him and C.W. McCall in this video.
Examples include the wings of flightless birds, the limb girdles of snakes, the appendix, and the ear muscles of humans.
Yes, all 3 of those are vestigial features in the biosphere. They all still have some function. However, they do not have the original function, which is what vestigial means. Vestigial features in the biosphere does not mean no function. It means not the original function. Charles Darwin pointed this out 151 years ago. Dictionary.
And the scale leaves of parasitic flowering plants.
Look up dandelion reproduction, the plant, for the creationists out there. Scientists can explain it. Creationists cannot.
The presence of vestigial organs is thought to indicate the ancestors of the organism possessed fully functioning organs.
No, vestigial organs can still be fully functional. That is the whole swatting point, which Charles Darwin pointed out 151 years ago.
Now, I quite like that particular definition because it is so precise and it explains the argument exactly as I was taught it.
So you get your scientific explanations from dictionaries.
It doesn't allow much breathing room for this new version.
There is no new version. Vestigial organs, or vestigial features in the biosphere, has been described over 200 years. In fact, it goes back to the 1700s. Nothing new. Hasn't been described anything new. It hasn't been defined as anything new. Unless, of course, you're getting your fucking science from dictionaries.
Even better, it's in a biology book, so they can't claim that biology never claimed vestigial organs as functionless. Finally, Reader's Digest Oxford Complete Word Finder.
Reader's Digest.
I'm not sure when this thing was published, but it's been gathering dust in my granddad's house for quite some time now, so I think it's safe to say it's at least a couple of years old.
Charles Darwin correctly described what a vestigial feature is 151 years ago. Scientists still use that definition, that description. Hasn't changed. It is extremely unlikely to change any time in the future. Reader's Digest.
The second definition it gives of vestigial is...
Is there anybody else out there who's wondering why he won't tell us what the primary usage is in his source? Why he skips the primary and goes to the secondary? Could it be that the primary word usage of vestigial in his source says exactly what scientists have been saying for almost 200 years? Could it be that if he told us what the primary usage in his source says, it would refute his complaint?
In biology, in brackets, of an organ, atrophied or functionless from the process of evolution.
That's right. Reader's Digest got it wrong. What are the odds?
It's quite clear from the older sources that...
By sources, he means dictionaries and Reader's Digest.
Whatever vestigial organs means to some people now, it used to mean functionless.
That's right, some people. He's complaining about how some people use the word vestigial when applied to the biosphere. Nobody gives a shit. If you want to know what scientists mean by vestigial in the biosphere, you can go back almost 200 years and they mean the exact same thing by vestigial that they mean today. Hasn't changed a whit. Not a jot, not a tittle, whatever. Hasn't changed, is extremely unlikely to change. This clown is complaining that his dictionaries don't define the word the same way that scientists use the word, and we're supposed to give a shit what dictionaries say? I don't get it. Seriously, I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
When I first started out debating, two examples I had thrown at me were the coccyx and the appendix.
Someone threw at you a coccyx and an appendix.
Until we fought and split up recently, I had this friend who spoke to me a lot about this issue.
That's right. Just this guy or this gal just, you know, spoke with this guy as if we should give a shit what some friend of his says on the subject. If you want to know what scientists mean by a vestigial function or a vestigial organ or a vestigial feature in the biosphere, I suggest you ask a scientist, not a dictionary, not Reader's Digest, and not this friend.
While she didn't believe in evolution,
Neither do I. I don't believe in evolution for exactly the same reason I don't believe in sunlight. I don't believe in gravity.
She did used to say, quote,
"Let me guess, she used to say, icky, 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 patang, zinging, knee." And now she just says, knee.
some parts of evolution are true.
No, there is absolutely nothing in evolution that is true, let alone parts of evolution that are true. There is nothing in evolution that is true or false. Evolution is a natural phenomena observed in nature. It cannot be true. It cannot either be false. Evolution, not true, not false. It is an observed phenomena. Issues of true and false do not apply to evolution any more than it applies to sunlight or gravity.
For example, we don't use our appendix.
I certainly use mine, by golly, every Friday night.
Unquote. I could not for the life of me get her to back down on that issue.
So your friend's stupid. What do you want us to do about it?
I told her it was part of the immune system, and it is especially useful when you're developing in your mother's womb.
Yes, if one's mother was a rabbit and you're a rabbit or other rodent. In humans, we still don't know. It is very likely that in humans, the appendix performed, past tense, the same function in rabbits and rodents. Gastrointestinal immune system responses, but we don't know. It might not in humans anymore. And that is the whole fucking point of a vestigial organ.
But she used to say, well, if we needed our appendix, why can we live without it?
And why should anybody give a shit what your friend used to say?
I pointed out to her that you can live without your arms and legs, but you still need them. Eventually she'd get wound up and say something like, of course we don't use our appendix, we wouldn't be taught it otherwise.
And we should care what your friend says. Why exactly? Fill in the blank, please.
Now the funny thing is, I'm only a year older than her, and I can remember when I used to say the exact same thing.
Please, no more!
Each year, students at Brighouse High School are being taught that things like the appendix and the coccyx are remnants of organs found in our ancestors, the apes.
The apes? All of them? There's a school out there teaching that the apes are our ancestors? I find this extremely unlikely.
I've got a bunch of biology books that say pretty much the same thing.
Then you should throw them away, because there is no scientist out there who makes the claim that the apes are the ancestors of humans.
In the modern day, we know that the vestigial organs argument is obsolete.
How very odd that none of the scientists out there know this.
A function has been found for almost every organ once labelled as vestigial.
Vestigial does not mean no function, and it never did.
And if there are any that haven't, I'm not aware of them, but I'm sure the function will be discovered one day.
Yes, and when it does, you'll see that the feature or the function or the organ does a different job than it used to. That is what vestigial means.
Even if it isn't, it's impossible to prove something is functionless, so the argument is technically an argument from silence.
Scientists don't say that vestigial functions or features are useless. They do not say they are functionless. Your friend did.
We can't find the evidence that it has a function, therefore it has no function.
No scientist makes that claim.
Before I address the new meaning of vestigial,
Among scientists, there is no new meaning of vestigial.
I want to say one last thing about the old one.
Among scientists, there is no old meaning of the word vestigial.
Even if it could be proven that any organ in the human body was functionless,
No scientist says there is a organ, let alone more than one, in the human body that is functionless.
this would not be evidence of evolution.
Vestigial features, functions, and organs in the biosphere are excellent evidences for evolution. If they weren't, that would mean that the gods are fucking with us.
If you could show a new organ developing,
Cecal valve Italian wall lizards.
or an organ changing into a different organ,
reptilian jawbones, mammalian inner ear bones.
Or at least a new form.
Dolphins and whales.
Then you've got a case.
Yes, we do! Ha 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 ha! But sore much?
Loss of function is consistent with the creationist view,
So is loss of critical thinking ability.
as many of us believe humanity is deteriorating,
Yes, like anybody gives a shit what creationists believe.
and we can expect to see many defects and imperfections. Okay, so that's the old meaning, and
No, that is your completely imaginary meaning of vestigial. No scientist uses that definition or description. Haven't done so 151 years and more. Strawman argument dismissed.
proving from older sources, of which I could cite many,
That's right, you can cite more dictionaries.
that this actually is the old meaning. But what about the new meaning?
Among scientists, there is no new meaning of the word vestigial. 151 years at least, same meaning.
After suffering a horribly embarrassing fate, the vestigial organ argument did not accept its refutation. It evolved. Vestigial organs changed from functionless to not performing their original function.
151 years ago, Charles Darwin said that. Also, Russell Wallace, Thomas Huxley, and others. Same definition, more than 150 years.
For example, the coccyx is no longer believed to be a useless remnant of a tail.
Cite a scientist who claimed that.
It is believed to be a remnant of a tail with a function.
Otherwise known as a vestigial organ.
Here's the problem. It's a circular argument. In order to assume the organs had an original function, such as the coccyx previously being a tail in an ape-like ancestor, you must first assume evolution.
Human fetuses and monkey fetuses both develop tails. In humans, the tail is eventually absorbed by the fetus. If you inhibit the absorption of the tail in human fetuses, the baby is born with a tail. In some cases, a functioning tail including vertebrae and muscles, and the tail in the human is under conscious control. Link down here if anybody's interested. Atavism is a sign of evolutionary history. The coccyx, therefore, is a vestigial organ for what used to be in our ancestors a tail. We don't have to assume our very genome includes most of the code required to give us tails. Assume when some babies are actually born with articulate tails? Assume? No.
So the new definition of vestigial,
There's no new definition of vestigial.
and using that to say evolution is true, is using evolution to prove evolution.
No, evolution is not true for exactly the same reason evolution is not false. Also, no scientist out there is trying to prove evolution. It is impossible to prove any observed natural phenomena in nature happening. No scientist is trying to do that. They know they cannot.
I can't tell you how many times I've been told off for using the Bible to prove the Bible.
Nobody cares.
Even though when I use the Bible, it's only to define my position or show which particular part of the Bible I'm providing evidence for.
But nobody cares.
So how can evolutionists expect me?
And what the bloody fuck is an evolutionist? An evolutionist would be somebody who is going out there and doing evolution. Like doing differential reproductive success. Killing other people's offspring perhaps. Or, I don't know, trying to look more attractive to the opposite sex or something. That would be an evolutionist. I assume this clown means scientist and not evolutionist, but you never know what the bloody fuck a creationist means by anything they say.
Or anyone else for that matter. to accept as circular evidence for their position.
Yes, and if you ever hear or see a scientist actually doing that, be sure to tell somebody, okay?
So that's my answer to vestigial organs.
Your answer was to quote dictionaries on what vestigial means in the biosphere and ignore what the scientists say vestigial means in the biosphere. Good answer.
I hope this video has been useful to you.
Yes, it has. Just look up and see what Wikipedia says about the phrase useful idiot.
Thank you for watching. God bless.
I did not sneeze. So, to sum up, this clown is complaining that a dictionary, a couple dictionaries, do not say what scientists say the phrase vestigial organ or vestigial function or vestigial feature say. Even though scientists for over 150 years have been saying exactly what a vestigial feature is in the biosphere, that matches what they say today a vestigial function or feature is in the biosphere. Same fucking thing. Must I quote C.W. McCall again? No. Shall I quote Charles Darwin again? Why the fuck not?
An organ serving for two purposes may become rudimentary or utterly aborted for one, even the more important purpose, and remain perfectly efficient for the other. Ellipse. An organ may become rudimentary for its proper purpose and be used for a distinct object.